Welcome! Today I am going to talk about the basic tools that you need to get started with quilting. So if you're new and wondering what exactly do you need to get started, not all this extra stuff that you might not need right away, but the basics to get started, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Wendy Haney, and I created this YouTube channel because I love quilting. And I also love sharing it with others. And so not everybody was as blessed as I was to have grandmothers to teach me to quilt and get me down this path. So I'm here to help you get started with quilting. So, first thing you need is, a sewing machine. Yep, you don't need anything big and expensive. You just need a machine that knows how to sew a straight 1/4 inch seam. It could be your mother's, your grandmother's machines. You know, I have some quilting friends that sew with what they call featherlight machines that are, well, kind of like antiques, but dang it, those suckers sew a good 1/4 inch seam. So don't think you need to go out and spend a lot of money on a sewing machine. If you're using an older machine, key thing, get it serviced right away. Get it serviced to make sure you know it works and make sure that it can sew a 1/4 inch seam. We'll show you more on that in another video. The other thing is, read the manual and also know how to change the bobbin in your the sewing machine. Changing your thread, changing your bobbin, sewing a 1/4 inch seam, and you're golden with your sewing machine. Next thing you need is an iron. Yep, once again, if you're just getting started, don't think you need to go out there and buy the fanciest, most expensive iron. All it needs to do is heat up, press, maybe a little steam, you're fine. So, good Walmart one, Amazon one, I actually prefer a nice heavy one. So actually, I think you can get online, it's like a Black & Decker, and it looks like those good old-fashioned old cast iron metal ones that your mother or grandmother used to have. I think my mom still has one of those. I'm hoping to get it someday. It's a good heavy one, good weight. You can still get those today very inexpensively. So you need a good iron. Thread. I personally prefer a Katona thread by Madeira. It's a 50 weight cotton thread, so it's a little bit lighter weight than some other threads. And when you're trying to do a good 1/4 inch seam, well, your thread does add weight to that seam. And so the 50 weight Katona is what I use. Get a black, a white, and a cream or a gray, and you should get it covered. You don't need all sorts of colored thread like you did if you ever did sewing of clothes. Piecing, quilting is so much easier in that regards. Okay, needles. You're going to need needles for your sewing machine, like a 8012 or a 9014. Make sure they work in your sewing machine. You're also going to need scissors. You don't necessarily, well, actually I have two kinds of scissors. My good, well, I don't know, good cutting scissors, shears. These are great. And these are the ones that don't let anybody else touch them. They're for my fabric. Yeah, big rule in my family. Those come in handy at times, but you also just need a good pair of snips. I like it's Tooltron snips that work really, really well for trimming my threads off as I'm sewing. You'll need straight pins. Yep, just good old-fashioned sewing straight pins with a nice point on them. That will help your piecing by pinning it. You need a rotary cutter. Unlike years and years ago where people would use your scissors and draw templates and cut them out with the scissors, nope, nowadays we use something called a rotary cutter. And a rotary cutter has a round blade, kind of like a pizza cutter. And just be careful, those suckers are sharp. And I prefer the OLFA. OLFA, 45 millimeter is what I use. I use the one with the curved handle. This works great. So that's what you're going to use for cutting your fabric. And since you're using a rotary cutter, you need a rotary cutter mat. There are a variety out there, and actually I have another video out there on my channel about rotary cutter mats. So go out and watch that. I'll tag it here in the description so you can find it very easily, but that will go into more details about the different types of rotary cutter mats, so you kind of decide which one's going to fit best for you. Some are less expensive, some are more expensive. Okay, seam ripper. Yep, you gotta have a seam ripper. Because let me tell you, there's going to be oopses and mistakes and I got to rip that out. My seams don't match. So get a good seam ripper. If you just recently bought a machine, could very well be likely one of the tools your sewing machine comes with is a seam ripper. Great, then you're all set. If not, go out and just get a good, sharp seam ripper. Rulers. I also have another video on rulers, but for the basics, we're going to start with a 6 by 24 inch ruler, a 6.5 by 6.5 inch square ruler. That will get you started and give you a good starting point without going out and buying a whole bunch of custom rulers and thinking you need a whole bunch of different sizes. Start with the basics, get started with quilting, and hopefully you'll fall in love with it like I did, but if you figure out or decide maybe that's not quite for you or you're not going to spend that much time doing it, then you haven't invested a ton of money. Blue painter's tape. And you're going, say what? Yes. You might hear some people mention masking tape. No. Do not use masking tape. Masking tape leaves a residue, and if you happen to leave it stuck on something for too long, not good. Painter's tape is not too sticky, but it sticks. It works really good when you're if you're always cutting a 2.5 inch strip, you could put it on your ruler to mark your 2.5 inch. So you just, yep, there it is, and it lines up, and you don't have to double, triple check it every time because you've marked it. It also can come in very handy on your sewing machine to help you mark and identify a line to get your 1/4 inch seam. Okay, when it comes to sewing on your binding, there's a couple other things you're going to need. And I prefer the John James size 8 quilting needles. That's what I like to use because I hand sew my binding on. You sew the binding on by machine to start with, you wrap it to the back, and then I hand stitch it. So in that regard, that's why I need the quilting needles. I also like a thimble. There's a lot of different ways you can do with thimbles. They're the ones that you probably think about when you think of a thimble, and the one that fits over your finger. Yeah, I just never have gotten those to work. They're just always in my way. So I prefer these little round 3M felt pads. I just, they come in a set of, quite a few of them. You pull them off and I stick them on the end of my finger. And so that's what I use then to push in the needle as I'm sewing on the binding. It protects my finger and I don't have this big clunky thimble on it. The other thing I use are binder clips. These little buggers are just nice little things I can clamp on my binding quite a ways down on my quilt, and then I can work on sewing it on, and I'm not trying to hold it and move it all by hand. So that comes very handy with that. I think that about covers it with the tools that we need. There's also another YouTube video I have out there called the 11 Things All Quilters Needed for more, and so you can get more details on some of the items I've talked about today. But this gives you the basics. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to stay up to date with all the new stuff I'm dropping, subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon. That way you'll be notified anytime I drop a new video into the channel. I'll be posting new videos every Friday morning with lots of great stuff that you aren't going to want to miss. I also would love to have you join me in my Facebook group. I have a private Facebook group that we're sharing things about life that I love. Quilting, needlework, machine embroidery, wine, books, a lot of fun stuff. So I'd love to have you join me over there. You can find it at facebook.com/group/lifefulfilled. I also can be found at the normal ways: Pinterest, Instagram, etc. You can find in the description below all the links of the places to find me, including wendyjhaney.com. If you found this video helpful, I would love to have you give me a thumbs up, drop me a comment, let me know what you'd like to see. Take care, and thanks for watching.